Hello and welcome to another video. So I made some modifications to an old spell boost deck that I was messing around with in the probably last month or so, and it's been a lot of fun. Honestly, Truth Adjudication is still a fun card to use, and Rayo is a great one-of. I found that really you don't want to play too many more than one of him. I mean, you could probably get away with two and spell boost massively, but since he is such a late drop, you kind of want to be winning just after he's played. And of course I am running double Mystic Seer because turn 6 is always a tricky turn for me when I'm playing spell boost decks outside of Truth Adjudication, which I tend to use a bit later, sometimes on 6. But Mystic Seer is pretty much perfect because it will spell boost everything, it'll give us a good draw engine, and it works really well with Omen of Truth, so I thought why not throw that into the deck. Otherwise everything else is a pretty standard spell boosting deck. We're running a single Nova Flare to deal with Forest and Sword mainly, as they're the only two decks that really flood the board hard. Maybe Portal, but I don't see a lot of that around at the moment. Chain of Calling, I wanted something to pull spell boostable cards, or just rune cards in general. Preferably to pull Chimera and Flame Destroyer, but I don't really mind pulling Magic Owls, Seers, and Truths, considering they're the only other followers anyway, so you've got a pretty low pool that you're going to always be pulling from. I had a lot of fun. We're actually only doing a Rune vs Forest at the moment for this video, as I found that was probably the most fun matchup to really do, and Forest is kind of everywhere, so I thought it was definitely good to just kind of home in on that one and do a kind of dedicated video to this spell boost deck versus Forest. So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So for our first matchup, of course, as I mentioned, they're going to both be Forest for our two matches for this video, and it's a very common matchup you're going to have on ladder at the moment. At least as far as Forest goes, it seems like everyone's running pretty much the exact same Forest build. Very, very little deviation from the pretty much basic aggro-y Forest style deck. Maybe even mid-range Forest if you want to go that far. I haven't actually looked at a full Forest list yet, but everyone seems to be running pretty much the same variation, just pumping fairies, boosting them up, getting that damage in, and then using a couple of bigger followers to really close out the game, which isn't a huge surprise. But for us, we're just kind of going to boost and play for ourselves, because that's what Solitaire Rune does best. Being able to just spell boost everything in your hand and deal with your opponent's board continuously is the exact way you play this deck. So I go for the Mysterian Knowledge, just because I want that extra spell boost, even though I should have went for the draw first. Making sure to do your draw first is usually going to be more important to you than anything else, and it's a very easy misplay to make, especially if you don't play a lot of spell boost Rune, which, honestly, considering it's not one of my top 3 favorite decks, it's definitely not one I play a lot. So I still make that pretty simple mistake. So we got it pretty easy with this Magical Owl. It's going to get rid of the 1-3 quite comfortably. And we can also use another missile, which, again, we should have used first before evolving the Owl, as that would have been the better way to make that play for a potential boost. So, just a very thing to keep in mind that I might make those mistakes, but hopefully you guys don't, and you'll find that you'll probably have a lot more success if you don't. I find sometimes that's what holds me back. I might be 1 or 2 damage short because I accidentally spell boosted in the wrong order, and that can happen more often than not, surprisingly. So this time I wanted to go for the spell boost first because I didn't really have any draw card that I could actually play on curve anyway, and still get the Owl out. I could have played the 5-drop, but it would have been pretty much worthless at 5. I wouldn't have been able to play pretty much anything else other than Fiery, and didn't really want to do that. So Yggdrasil's kind of the only problem card when you go up against Forest most of the time, as it's quite harsh when it comes to dealing damage to you and healing. So it's something you really want to deal with as immediately as you can. So I take advantage of my draw cards as much as I can before going into a Mysterious Circle Fiery Embrace to clean this up and just start to get that little bit of damage on our opponent. Of course, Peerless Shot, another 2-for-1 card that is quite powerful, especially since it has a decent stat line for a 4-drop. And a really strong evolve effect. So we want to kind of deal with this, and I couldn't really come up with any way to deal with this that wasn't just going to pretty much lose me the turn. And I didn't really want that, so we went with probably the only option I had available, and that was the Truth Adjudication. Probably one of my favourite cards against Forest, because Forest doesn't like dealing with huge standard followers continuously. They might be able to do it once or twice, but to do it over and over again, it can be some trouble for them. Especially once they're out of Evo points like the situation they're in now. So we're probably going to get another chance to go for Truth Adjudication, or our opponent can just concede. I mean, either way works for me. And then next up, we actually have another Forest. So, again, as I mentioned, 2 Forest matches up, very popular in ladder. No surprise that Forest tends to be a quite good matchup for this deck. Forest doesn't tend to run anything that can really stop you from hitting them hard, and because a lot of their kind of mid-rangey cards, their big drops, are really around the same time as Rune's big drops, where they're going to be putting a lot of pressure down, it makes it very easy to kind of counter them out. As long as you can beat out their early game with some removal, usually it's not a big problem at all. Especially when our opponent has an Elf Song to start off with. The only unfortunate part was here, I didn't really have a decent turn 2 play. If I had have got the Mysterian Circle, I actually would have had one before, but getting it now just wasn't as good. So I do decide to go for the Consecration over playing anything else at this point. Even though I could have cleared that, I just wanted to fill my curve out properly and set up turn 4 to be half decent, because we are going to have Owl come down anyway. So being able to go for a double clear next turn is usually going to be pretty fine, even if we have to take 2 damage. Plus we already have a Truth Adjudication, so I'm expecting us to be able to heal even just a little bit in this match. Although Truth Adjudication is full RNG, it's definitely one of the more fun RNG cards you can play. So we've done a decent amount of spell boosting. I mean, Fiery Embrace is on 2, so that's definitely good. The Mark of Unkilling, that's a pretty weak card to use on an Owl. But I guess since they are aggro, they want to keep as much on the board as they can. It's one of the few times I've seen variation in Forest when they run some Unkilling cards. But again, I haven't seen a full Forest list, so it's possible they always run that and I've just never seen it come out. I will have to look into some Forest decks more, but obviously being like day 2 or 3 when I'm making this video, it's still early days. Disciple of Unkilling, so it looks like they are going for a full Unkilling deck here. At least as their base. So this shouldn't be too difficult to deal with. I mean, we have the Fiery Embrace, Mysterian Missile, Wind. We should be able to actually wipe this board pretty comfortably and still have some points left. Again, misplaying my order, I should have definitely went for the Magic Missile first. Didn't realize that until I'd already played those other spells out as I was planning that far ahead. And I would have had some better luck because I would have been able to use double Magic Missile instead of using my 3 clear, which would have been a little bit better. Would have got me just that little bit more value out of those cards. Not that I'm worried too much, as Truth Adjudication still got a massive amount of spell boost. So Mystic Seer, because it's great and will give us a spell boost twice this turn. It's basically a big owl with a draw effect on it, which is always good, and it will continually boost every turn from now on, so definitely worthwhile. Provided, of course, we don't drop below 5 cards. Or 6 cards, sorry, because 5 will be its draw. So this is good. I like seeing things like this where they are forced to basically deal damage, and turns out keeping that Magic Missile here actually is going to work in our favour, as we're going to be able to kill that 5-1 quite easily and still drop a Truth Adjudication. So it's looking really good for us now. So 5 damage to our opponent is good. Our Giant Chimera is actually still pretty decent. I mean, it's 8 damage, which considering when we drew it is actually not that bad. But our opponent really is pressuring us, as 8 damage isn't going to be enough to really get them down substantially. So Truth Adjudication probably going to be, again, my best play, as I do need that healing, and another 5 damage to face. So definitely rolling the middle of the range considering how much we've spell boosted these Truth Adjudications. The next one is 14, which with another boost is probably going to be 15 there, so our luck, if it's on our side, will be interesting. As Giant Chimera still isn't going to be enough to wipe this board and get the damage we need. So taking a risk here, I go for the Truth Adjudication. Does it pay off? 100% does. 9 damage to the face for victory off Truth Adjudication. Could not go any better for me in that match. So if you want to play something that's going to handle Forest pretty well in the current meta, this is doing a pretty good job so far. Will it continue to do a good job? That was really bad wording. Anyway, will it continue to do a good job? Who really knows, honestly. We've got a few more days before anything will kind of settle down enough that I would have a definitive say on where the meta is kind of sitting. And at this stage, pretty much anything is playable. It's just a matter of how playable it is. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Deck list will be in the description below. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Until next time, see ya.